Okay, we're live on YouTube.
Perfect.
Can't tell if we're live on Facebook. Let me get us on TikTok and then I'll double check Facebook. Okay, live on Facebook.
Awesome.
Hello, Carrie.
Hey. Just getting set up, and today we're going to go live on Facebook, so we're just getting that all set up and ready for our Facebook viewers to join in.
Can't tell if it's live or not yet.
Let me take a gander.
I don't think so. All right, where's the start button? I see a streaming. Where's like go live? Come on, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, there's a watch live video button that's not clickable yet, so I'm sure that's the key.
Come on, why is it not letting me complete post?
If you're in on YouTube or TikTok, we're also going to be expanding into Facebook today, so really appreciate your patience as we get that set up. But then as soon as that's going, we'll get right into the episode.
Oh, okay. Let me. Make sure to talk to the camera while I work on this list.
Really excited for this episode. Especially, I don't know if anyone else knew it. I certainly didn't know it until last week, but there's a special elections coming up in November, so always a good time to talk about the lesser of two evils trap. So that's what we're going to talk about, and just go into, gosh, why that's a garbage way to to have democracy. Yeah, especially as someone who, you know, I voted Republican, I voted Democrats, and gosh, I feel like we just keep having the same gosh darn problems.
Yeah, totally.
Those who are joining on our TikTok and our YouTube, we are getting set up on Facebook. So jump in the chat, say hello to us, and then we'll get started pretty soon into the episode. Yeah, and like I said before, we're going to talk about the quote unquote lesser of two evils, right? And isn't that such a crazy way to pick those in power? So we're going to be talking about how do we get out of that trap, and what are some better ways to start judging our leaders, right? Because if left and right, are more are more sisters than we would like to admit in terms of corruption and establishment control. how do we get out of that? And that's what we'll be going over today.
Cool. Yep. So we are we're good to go. We're live. We could
Oh, cool.
get cooking.
All right. I will get us rocking and rolling. Yeah. So hello, everyone joining us on TikTok. We're on YouTube right now, and we officially just started on Facebook Live. So welcome to those tuning in. We are Fink. Future is Now Coalition. And you can think of Fink as your civic utility company. And just like any utility company, we at Fink want to connect people to a shared resources system and also a system that runs on shared standards. And that is exactly what Fink is bringing to the table for democracy. So we plug everyone into a fair, citizen-led system that truly talks about representation. And how are we making participation in this new system simple? Well, we are putting every candidate on equal footing, right? We are lowering the barriers to grassroots voices, and we are streamlining the democratic process. So all of that culminates to less waste and more representation. So with built-in accountability, using these shared standards, we keep leaders answerable to the people, right? You, me, your grandma, your best friend, while also reducing the sway that money has on our political system. So again, we are Fink, and we invite you to plug in, be heard, get results. So before we talk about the meat and potatoes of what this episode is about, I just want to invite all of you watching to jump on in the chat. We love hearing from you. We love answering your questions about what we're building and what our mission is. Give us a like, a heart, a tap, whatever platform you're using. But most importantly, hit that follow button. With our mission being so people focused, people led, and people prioritized, a simple act like following an organization like us really matters to help us boost our mission and get the word out to more people. So today, we're going to talk about the lesser of two evils trap, what that means, how we get out of it, and how we can better determine if a candidate is right for us, right? There's such power behind voting for someone and giving them that power to decide, politics. We want people to really have confidence and clarity when they tick someone's name off, that person is going to keep their promises and represent them in Congress, in the White House, in the school board election, whatever it is. And with that, I will pass it to Fink's founder, Travis.
Cool. So like Liz is saying, we're doing talking about the lesser two evils trap. Really, like, out of all the problems that we're facing right now, everything from the ultra polarization to money in politics, the conflicts, all that's going on, like, I'd really say that the lesser two evil trap is the biggest hurdle to jump over. And so basically what that is just that, most people are gonna they're gonna vote for who's most viable and who they're told is gonna win against the one that they want to win the least. So for example, if you're a Republican, you're gonna vote for the Republican candidate most likely to win against the Democrat, and vice versa, rather than your ideal choice. And this is just kind of built into our culture. Our parties drill that into us, that, oh no, you have to vote for the viable candidate, not the candidate you want, but the one that's the most viable, the one that is deemed the most electable to win against the other candidate. And that's really probably the biggest thing that traps us into our declining democracy, is that we end up not voting for our main choice, and we're voting for who we're told is the most viable and electable. And the problem with that is that it's really the establishment are deeming who's electable, and they're not just purely looking at it objectively of who genuinely has the best chance to win. They're looking at it also on like who they want to win. If you could be the most electable candidate, but if you're a threat to the status quo, they're not going to deem you electable. They're not going to want we don't want people to vote for you, so they're gonna make you actually sound like a threat, that you're voting for you as a guarantee against your party. So that's a big issue that Fink is regularly addressing. We have some really outside the box solutions on how to overcome this, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But bottom line is just it's fear voting is what keeps us trapped, and we're trying to swap the lesser evil for clarity. And people need to start voting their conscience, voting for like who they legitimately want to win. And then also this gets us trapped in the two parties. It also keeps us away from like the third parties that people want. Like 63% of Americans want third parties to win, but we're not voting for those third parties because we're trapped in that lesser two evils. So we're gonna get into that today. But for now, I'm gonna pass it back to Liz.
Absolutely. And something while you were talking, Travis, that came to my mind is it's almost like the establishment and those already in power are playing a team sport, right? Who is going to keep us winning? Who's going to keep us paid? Who's going to keep me in this kind of cushy job, right? In my opinion, the kind of money and healthcare and travel that those in power, especially when you talk federal levels, it's a really cushy job. So why would you ever, right, risk someone who says, "Hey, you guys suck at your job," right? Why would you ever risk your power? And so excited about it, especially when you have all of the team players like big media, big money, primaries, the debate stage, all of those really factor into one team that we're calling the establishment. Um, and gosh, they keep winning, right? Us as the people, we keep losing. We keep getting the short end of the stick. And that's what Fink is here to address. How do we change um, the outcome, right? How do we get democracy back? How do we have voting actually be something people are excited about to put their voice behind rather than just, oh gosh, like Travis was saying, the fear. How do I ensure the worst of the two evils in whatever opinion you have doesn't win? Um, yeah, so it's just kind of it's football season, so team sports is probably on a lot of people's minds. And gosh, I'm tired of losing. Because when I lose, right, my health care, whatever, everything depends on politics. So I'm tired of losing. I'm sure you guys are too. But I'll pass it back to Travis.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. I mean, all the numbers are showing that people are just totally fed up. They're tired. The economy keeps getting worse. Healthcare keeps getting worse. And again, it doesn't matter who's in office, because both sides have a conflicts of interest towards big pharma and those that would, there's money in it to not fix our healthcare, and that's why it's not going to be fixed, and so on with all pretty much all the issues down the line. So starting with just some statistics here. So 43% of Americans officially identify now as independents, whereas the Democrat, like about 27% of voters identify as Democrat and around 27 as Republican, but 43 identify as independent. So that's like new in modern history. It's been about a decade that people more identify as independent rather than the two parties. But like that's almost never happened in history, but now that is a steady reality that more people identify as independent. And then both parties are underwater right now. About 60% unfavorable for both Democrats and Republicans. I mean, you look across the board, the favorability ratings of both parties are just so abysmal. Democrats are usually in like the 20%, low 20%, and Republicans are actually a little higher, and sometimes between the high 20s, low 30%. Approval ratings, like Chuck Schumer, Senate leader for Democrats is like negative 12%, like crazy. It's just crazy negative numbers. And that's also something that's really been pretty unprecedented. Like a lot of presidents, they can hit like they used to hit like 60s, like over 60%, like more than half the country would be happy at some point or the other with their presidential candidate. And that's long past. Obama was the last, I think, to hit past 60% as a president. But Obama did. I think Bush did at certain points. But now that's like a dream, a pipe dream. And then new party demands, like I said earlier, 63% of Americans want a viable third party. So it's really like that. It's fascinating numbers because usually in a general election, about the Libertarian Party gains about 5% of the votes. Green Party gains about 3 to 4% of the votes, and yet 63% of Americans want third parties. So some people show, oh, look, they don't get any votes, nobody wants them, and it's like, well, let's be clear, it's kind of this chicken or the egg. It's not that nobody wants them, it's just they're scared of wasting their vote on the lesser of and end up going towards the lesser of two evils. So all the statistics and polling shows a different story, and it's understandable. Are you voting for somebody has no chance of winning, or are you going to vote for the person that's going to beat the worst evil? It kind of gets us stuck in that. But it shouldn't be that way, and we're really one of the only first world democracies that are stuck in that kind of a system, just because the way we have like a winner take all kind of voting system. Most democracies are parliamentary, which I don't know all the details to break it down, but it's more of almost like a more proportional voting kind of style. But as we get into the solutions a little bit later, there are ways to kind of work around what we're stuck in as our country. But then trust is a huge factor that's getting lost now. About trust in media is at like about 31% of Americans trust media. 34% of Americans trust the legislative branch, even a fair amount of the time. Only 34%. Everything else is more of like in the negatives. And then the rigged sentiment. 70% of Americans say people in power are rigging the system. 80% in both parties say that big donors and lobbyists have too much influence. So, again, stat after stat, like people are fed up. People are done with this. They want change. We need change. And both sides, like they only say that they just need their side to win, and then that is the change. But it needs to be clear that neither side is the change agent. They're status quo. They have a little bit different flavor of the same thing, but it's still basically the same thing. Your life doesn't change that much. You had a Democrat majority for like a couple years. The system is still shitty, and now we have Republicans. System is still shitty. Like it's every time it flips, and even if they have a full majority, it's still not getting better. So like we need to understand that neither side is the way out, and it's about a bigger change than that. And that's what a lot of people are waking up to. That but we need more people to kind of get on the same page. Back to you, Liz.
Yeah, I see just a lot of people coming into our TikTok, Travis. So I just wanted to do a quick reset, and then I want to share a point. But just welcome to those tuning into our TikTok, our YouTube, our Facebook lives. We're Fink, Future is Now Coalition, and today we are talking about how to escape the lesser two evil trap. Right? How do we start voting for someone that we really like instead of just voting out of fear that the other guy might win? And at Fink, we are talking about how do we make sure that every candidate is seen and every citizen is heard, free to speak. Because, like Travis just said, people are sick of the media. They're sick of the party leaders. They're sick of parties dictating what they believe, right? Look at that statistic about independent voters. I personally don't see the establishment, those in power, reacting to these kind of numbers, right? If the people en masse and across the party aisle are so displeased with who's in power, how they get in power, at Fink, right? We're trying to make a system where less waste is happening, more representation is just natural, and real accountability is baked into the system that keeps leaders answerable to the people instead of their donors. So welcome. Feel free to jump in the chats. We love talking to you guys. Drop a like, drop a comment, and most importantly, with such a people-powered, people-focused mission like ours, hitting subscribe or follow really matters to helping us get our message out to the people. So that would be greatly appreciated. But going back to Travis's comments, just gosh, I guess like I said before, what is being done? Like the people yet again are expressing their frustration with the system, but the system doesn't care, right? I don't see parties having different talking points that fit their voters. I don't see the news becoming more honest overnight just because people disbelieve them. So again, it's going back to the establishment protecting itself. If they get reelected, even with these crappy numbers, they have a change to donors. Why would they care about your position on an issue? So again, it's all about really stop being told who's viable. Stop being told everything's okay because it's not. These numbers show it. You feel it, and we're here to do something about it. So with that, I'll pass it back to Travis.
Yeah, so starting to get towards our the solutions of how we want to break these cycles. So part of it is a big part of what we're doing. We're calling it digital politics, and a big piece of that is there's kind of two sides to it. One of them is identifying these rig patterns, like what keeps us trapped, what keeps us in this cycle of non-change. You have all these typical talking points on both sides, like just so much is just typical patterns that we just repeat election after election, and obviously things aren't changing. So to not be insane, we have to break those patterns, do something different. So digital politics is about identifying those patterns and then transcending those patterns. So that's part of it. And the other part of it is really looking at politics, not just left versus right, but up versus down. It's up serving versus down serving. And up serving is like politicians that serve their power, they serve the big donors, they serve the leaders above them. They serve everyone but who they're meant to do, which is the down-serving people do, which is the voters. Down-serving people are like the grassroots people, those that are their intentions are to do what's right for the voters, to earn your vote, and then actually succeed in their promises once elected. So we want to start adding this new lens, and just adding one new dimension could change the entire system if we could get enough people invested in this. We're not trying to change you going from left to right or right to left, but just adding this extra layer of identifying your politicians as well as the media on whether they're down serving or up serving can make a humongous difference. And we're building a lot of different tools and resources to help people how to identify where your politicians land on that axis. So that's a big piece of what we're trying to incorporate in our solutions. And again, building clarity with it. In the next couple, hopefully weeks, if not like a month or two, we're releasing our digital politics app that'll have a lot of resources related to this, checklists of like how to identify this, and different resources to find out this information, like finding out like who funds whose campaigns, stuff like that. And then the long-term goal with that is actually building what we're calling digital democracy, which is going to be it's going to integrate all those solutions and those resources into one big system. So it's just really simple, one-stop shop. But that's kind of a longer-term goal. We need a lot of people power for that to happen. But yeah, so digital politics is the first step. And so again, it's kind of like a framing of how to look at politics a little bit differently. Again, we're not going to change people left versus right in the policies you stand on, but we want to bring people under the same common goal of representation, that regardless of where you stand left versus right, you're not represented. Most of you feel like you're not being represented, and that's where we could start finding some unity. I think we could all agree that it's one of the most divisive times in modern history right now, between like left and right and all that. And this is the way forward, that we could find commonality, that we all feel unrepresented. Most of us want money out of politics. Most of us don't like the gerrymandering that's happening on both sides. There's a lot of fundamental things that are all just tied to representation that most America can agree on, and that's what can bring us together under one umbrella goal. So we're building. We're like pretty much the first organization to have a massive goal where you can still believe, we respect wherever you stand on political issues, your political beliefs, and that we're building a system across political divides, that this is the common thread. Representation, money out of politics is the common thread that we can all agree on, that like 85-90% of Americans can agree on. And that's how we start building we start healing some of this divide between all of us. So I'll pass it back to Liz before we get to the next section. I think you're on mute still, Liz. Liz, are you on mute, or am I having a problem? Yeah.
How about now?
You're good.
Okay, great. Sorry, guys. I was just saying that things like gerrymandering, money out of politics, just better candidates, those kind of things. Gosh, let's actually start talking about how united we are as voters, right? We don't always have to be so divided in every single thing, right? Half the nation is not your mortal enemy. Uh, at Fink, right? We know there's thousands of places online and in real life. Go ahead and debate only on party lines, right? That's not what we're here to do. We're here to say, gosh, people do agree on these massive changes that really affect democracy, right? Just imagine a democracy that was not literally bought by big donors, billionaires, big tech, big media. What would that mean? Even that one simple change would entirely reform the way democracy is in the United States. Uh, and a point before I hand it back to Travis is, I would say that the US likes to proclaim ourselves as the front leader, the front runner of democracy. And we're not. I think, the only, if not one of the few, first world nations, first world democracies that has a two-party system. Most others have, maybe three or four that really up the, you know, are actually on the ballot. But representation, other nations have figured it out. Other nations allow third, fourth, fifth party opportunities to be valid and accessible on the ballot. So us as the U.S., seeming to be, crowning ourselves as number one in democracy, we have such an archaic way of doing it, right? You can talk about primaries and how we're not doing that right. You can talk about how the influence of money is really garbage in our nation. And we could talk about the two-party system just not being a fair representation of what Americans really want in our democracy. So we're talking about building things, like Travis said, uh, a new lens of how to see politics up versus down. Who do they serve? Who are they beholden to? And then a little farther down the line, digital democracy, a one stop shop where politics is easy, representative, and gosh, costs a lot less money and it has a lot more reach than the policy, or sorry, the politics of today. And at that, I'll pass it back to Travis.
Cool. Um, yeah. So so getting into the next part. So a lot of like what we're doing, going back to like the main problem with lesser two evils is about that wasted vote. So part of our solutions, which it's more tied into digital democracy, something that hopefully we could get at least some of this done by the midterms, if not by the general election. But we want to design digital primaries and just generally a way for people to have more of a real-time access of like how popular each candidate is, their chances of winning. So basically the idea would be like, basically while the Democrats and Republicans are doing their own primaries.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. Travis froze for a second. He's now.
Were you hearing me, or just physically froze, or couldn't hear me either?
Audibly and visually, so I would just restart.
Yeah. So the one of the main solutions that we have over the next couple of years is digital primaries, and that's the idea that while Democrats and Republicans have their own primaries, we want to run almost like a practice round, like everyone in any part of the country it would be allowed to vote in this digital primary. And the idea of it is to get a sense of the viability of the different candidates. And to Carrie's point in the chat in TikTok, the Main Street Party is an organization that's someone we're allying with. We're actually meeting with them this Friday to talk some of this over. But they're working on this very technology starting in the house level. So essentially, them and us combined are working on these digital primaries where basically we want to test, like, so it might be in one state for the Senate, there's like the third part, there's the Green Party's viable, but in the House, in another seat in another state, the Libertarian's the most is viable. But then in another state, no third party is more viable, and that you do have to go for the lesser two evils. So we want to allow all candidates to run in this. So it could be Green Party against Libertarian, against Independent. Even grassroots candidates within the Democrat and Republican parties can run in this primary. And it's not like legally going to make a difference. The idea is just to show how viable each candidate is, and like kind of give everyone a practice run that so you can see and make your own decision if you feel like you're going to waste your vote, or that you have a good chance that this third party candidate can win. Because again, right now, a candidate can literally be deemed one of the most popular politicians in the country, and if the status quo doesn't like that person, they're going to say that they're not electable, and they're going to try to convince people not to vote for them, and that's just not fair, and it's misleading, it's manipulative. So we want to give America real-time information, and with these digital primaries, you could still be in your own you could still be involved in the Democrat primary and the Republican or the Republican primary, but you could also be part of this primary. And again, the idea is just to really test the true viability of different candidates. How popular are they? What are their chances of winning once they go into the general election? The other benefit to that is, like, if there's multiple third parties running, you see which one has the best chance, so that it's not like 10 different third parties running against in the general election. You narrow it down to one third party candidate, per race. So that's one of our bigger solutions that we're working towards. And again, Main Street Party is working on this on the House level. That the way they're going to run it is that whoever wins the digital primary there would end up in their third party as a candidate in their third party. So in the starting point, we're kind of doing it a little bit. We're kind of working a little bit differently between us and Main Street Party, and then just see how it might combine in the long term, keeping it a little fluid. So that's one of our kind of medium-term solutions to this problem. But in general, it's really just about like showing America that there's more, we have more in common than we think, and that especially things around like money, money out of politics, insider trading of stocks in Washington, a lot of things around just representation and you having a right to vote and your say in this country. There's a lot of a vast majority agrees on the same things, and we all agree that that things do need to change. The system isn't working, the status quo isn't working, and that both parties are part of that status quo. It's not only one side, and we have to. It's a scary thought, but it's a reality. People think like they'll say, "Oh yeah, the media lies," but my media lies less than your media. It's like no, Fox, CNN, MSNBC. Maybe one lies less than the other, but that's not the point. It's still they're lying. They're manipulating. They're not being 100% objective in what they do. Which is why in terms of media, we try to encourage people to go to independent media. And again, you can find left leaning, right leaning, whatever. That's up to you. But we believe that independent media is more likely to be more objective, and their goal is to give you a more objective reality. They're not selling, they're not being bought, they're not being paid to sell you a narrative. They're trying to give you their truest narrative to the best of their ability. For the most part, they're not going to be all perfect, but there's going to be a lot more. There's more chances of finding objective news in out of them. Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah. So what this boils down to is, gosh, the way the train is moving, right, is not the direction that people want it to go. So if you're sick of the media being liars, right, whatever party or whatever side of the aisle you find yourself on, if you're sick of the same people making the same decisions in power, right, if you want better choices, even if it's better, Democrats or better Republicans, all of these things really are not possible in the system we have today, right? This rigged system that keeps power in power and keeps us, the little guys, we keep getting screwed. So that's what we're all about at Fink. So if that applies to you, if you want better candidates, you want better media, you want better options, you want politics to not be a second, part-time job of research and finding data, this is exactly the place for you. And so I invite everyone listening on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook, check us out. Our handle is futureis.org across all social media. And check out our website at futureis.org. We're talking about real solutions to real problems. And gosh, the current system is not where you're going to find what you're really looking for. So give us a chance and check us out. We love when people ask us questions, check out our videos, check out our previous content. I'll pass it back to Travis.
Yep. So yeah, with that, like we do have these really unique solutions, and we just need to get more people power, more involvement in Americans, building this with us. We really want to co-build the future of politics, and we have a very thorough roadmap and a way to do this in a fair, representative way, where you have a voice, you have a say in the building of the future. And we just need to grow the awareness and backing around it. Because the solutions that are out there, we do back those as well. They're just not they're not so viable. So like flexible voting methods like ranked choice voting, proportional voting, those are things that we want to happen as well. They're just not viable right now. The establishment knows that would be a threat, so they're not going to legalize it. So what makes us so unique, one of the things that makes us so unique is that our solutions don't involve legislative change. It involves more of a cultural change, or a shift in how people are looking at the system. And at the stage that is more viable than legislative change, because like we say all the time, the wolves are not going to put a lock on their own cage. So we spread awareness for like ranked choice voting and proportional voting, things like that. And our big thing is money out of politics, but those are more long-term goals. Like we as voters need a change first. So changing the system from the outside has to happen first, because time and time again, everyone that's trying to change the system from within, it's not working. And like that, not that they should give up, they should keep trying, but it's not working. In fact, they're weaker today than 4 years ago. Even their height was around like 2020, but things are getting worse. So you know, like for example, ranked choice voting. We love ranked choice voting, but there's literally more like legislation that bans ranked choice voting than there is for ranked choice voting. Because again, both sides know that that would be the end of the status quo, so they both knocked it out. That's the one time that Democrats and Republicans will agree, is when they're going to lock in their power. So we need this outside the box change. What we're doing, what Main Street Party is doing, we have to do something outside the box, like things that they won't expect to happen. Like the solutions that Fink is offering is different than pretty much anything out there. It's not something they would expect to happen, and it'd be really hard for them to navigate, because we're not doing it on a legal way. We're not doing it in a legislative way. We're doing it in the hearts and minds of the people, and just changing how we're looking at politics would change the entire system from the bottom up, and it truly would. And there's nothing physical that they can do to stop that. So definitely check us out, our website and all that Liz gave you, and check us out. We'll be back on tomorrow. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Yeah, so we'll see you next time. Thank you guys for coming.